pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. Please call the roll.
Renee Manita, I'm here for the roll call. Karen Andrus.
Here.
Derek Botana.
Here.
Joseph Cruz. Absent. Ron Inge.
Here.
Christy Knight.
Mr. Cruz just got here.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, here.
Christy Knight. Matthew Lincoln Hall. Here. Chris Robin.
Here.
Elaine Sarlo. Here. Sawyer Smith. Absent. Shane Spring. Absent. Andrew Sund.
Here.
That is a quorum.
Thank you very much.
So also absent is Carl Baracco, Reggie Henderson, John Paul, and Shane Spring.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is a review and approval of the minutes for our October 18th meeting. Those were distributed by email in advance. If you have any chance, have you had a chance to look at them? Are there any comments or corrections to the minutes? If none, we'll entertain a motion for approval.
Move to approve the minutes.
Motion by Mr. Sun, second by Mr. Cruz. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. And that carries unanimously. Thank you. Acquisition review. We have one nomination on the agenda. We'll have staff speak about it, and then we'll entertain public comment before we take action. Mr. Clemens.
For acquisition review, we're looking at nomination 634. It's the Crew area, 5-acre tract. It scored 79 points. It's adjacent to other conservation lands, and staff recommends to forward this for board consideration to proceed with acquisition activities.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of staff? Seeing none, we have one card for public input. Barbara Manzo, please approach the mic.
For the record, Barbara Manzo, Eyes on Conservation 2020 Coalition, and we are tremendously in support of this purchase of this property, so that's all I have to say. It takes me longer to get up here and get back than it does to say that.
Thank you for your input. Any further comments from the committee? They will entertain a motion to recommend that this go forward for review.
I'd like to make a motion to put it forward.
Motion by Ms. Andrus. We have a second. Second by Mr. Cruz. Any discussion? Any opposition? That carries unanimously. Thank you. We have two staff negotiated purchase agreements. We'll consider input from the staff, entertain questions that we might have of staff, and then we'll take public input before we take action. So let's look at item 6A, which is nomination 423-2, North Fort Myers, Calusa, Hatchie Creeks Preserve, 51 acres with a score of 70. Mr. Clemens?
This is to consider a purchase agreement. Our CLASAC has already recommended to forward this item for acquisition, so we're not looking at forwarding the parcel. It's about terms and conditions of the contract. And as such, we're looking at a purchase price of $5 million for about 51 acres. As you can see, we have riverfront on the Calusa Hatchie. It's adjacent to an existing 2020 parcel. The property owner will be paying for typical closing costs, that being title insurance, dock stamps. Further, they will be paying for clearing the site of any and all improvements. This particular site had a couple of structures on it that will be coming down, so this is all on their side of the equation. The appraisals were at $5.3 million and $5.575, and again, the purchase price is $5 million. Staff recommends to forward this to the board for consideration.
Mr. Cummins?
I had one question, and I just maybe be my memory failing me. Was this one of the properties that there was a person living on and they intended to live on the property until it went to trust, or is this a separate property?
Same ownership, but different property.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, that life estate that was on one of those. Mr. Clemens, what happens with the road that goes down to the property? Who owns that, and what impediment, if any, will that be to you guys in management in the future?
It looks like it's a separate ownership, and this is something we can work on as we're going through the closing. I'd recommend with staff to get a quitclaim deed from the current owner, and we'll have to look further into that road, but I don't expect it's going to be an impediment because assuming we purchase it, we will own all sides of the road, so there's really no, I don't see any issues with that. If it happens to be a platted road, and I don't know off the top of my head, then we would have to go through the vacation process and eliminate it.
So it's something that's on your work plan to address?
We'll be working with Parks if we acquire it.
Any further questions of our staff with respect to this recommendation for acquisition?
Would any of the existing structures be useful for like recreational purposes before taken down, or
No, they're,
rough?
yeah.
Okay.
Weathered. We'll take action is to vote on a recommendation for acquisition, and we will have to vote individually unless it's unanimous. So we'll figure that out when we get there. So would anyone in the public care to speak on nomination 423-2 North Fort Myers CLASAC Creek Preserve? Everyone but Barbara Manso. I don't have a card for her.
Sorry, I forgot to write that one down.
Again, for the record, Barbara Manzo, Eyes on Conservation 2020, and we highly recommend the purchase of this property. It's being attached to the CLASAC Creek Preserve is extremely important, so thank you for this.
Thank you for that input. Anyone else in the public here to address the committee? Please come forward if so. Seeing none, what is the pleasure of the committee?
Mr. Chair, I'd move this, we recommend this for acquisition.
Do we have a motion by Mr. Sun? Do we have a second? Blaine seconded that. Okay, we have a motion for a recommendation for acquisition. We have a second. Is there any opposition? Seeing none, it's unanimous, so we won't have to call the roll. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Next item is nomination 627, Bokelia Smokehouse Bay Preserve, 20 acres with a score of 15. Mr. Clemens.
This is a 20-acre tract in Bokelia. It's adjacent to a conservation property held by Calusa Land Trust. They're not a governmental agency, but they do a lot of conservation activities on Pine Island. So this property was negotiated at $1 million for the purchase price. The appraised values were $1 million and 1.2, so we're at the lower end of the appraised values. The owner will pay for the title insurance, closing costs, dock stamps, and a Phase 2 audit should we need to go forward with a Phase 2 audit. The county will pay for the survey, Phase 1 audit, and any ancillary activities we want beyond typical closing, which I don't expect. Again, staff recommends to forward this for acquisition. This one was a previous palm grove operation. The owner will be removing all the palm trees. So I want to qualify that so it would be those commercial type of palm trees, but not clearing everything out here. He will also be leveling and grading the rows, and if there are any wells or underground infrastructure, they've indicated there's very little in the way of, my concern was that there were like PVC pipe throughout. The owner has indicated that that's not the case, but they will be removing that as well.
Thank you for that information. Staff.
Do we know what the estimated cost of restoring this parcel will be once it's been cleared? And how long?
That's going to depend on Parks and Rec. Typically, they use a less how should I say, let natural vegetation grow back, but I'll let
Right, I guess
Park speak.
we have to get with the 2020 coordinators, inspected to see how much things need to come off. Emily, what we usually do with that to have the guys go out and investigate to see what would need to be taken off, if anything needs to be taken off on this particular property.
Emily Gear for the record. We would be, after they remove the palms, we would go through and probably do an exotic treatment and assess the property as it is, and then decide how we want to do any sort of natural restoration to the property.
Thank you.
So the point is, given its history, the owner is going to do work, then we're going to have to do some subsequent work to get it in a condition that would be amenable to
for regrowth.
Okay. Elaine?
It mentions in the original asking price that the seller was going to donate $500,000 to the conservation program. Is that still happening?
That was kind of predicated on their asking price, which was substantially more, so short answer, no.
Mr. Young?
And just a follow-up on that, their asking price higher and above appraisal, but with the $500,000 actually comes out 150 grand ahead of where we're settling at 1 million. Was it the assessment that the work all being conducted would more than account for that value?
Yeah, they're estimating at least $100,000 to do the restoration type of work. So that was something we looked at. It's about a wash overall.
For the irrigation, you said the PVC is being removed. Is the well being capped as well, or is that going to be used possibly for restoration efforts?
This is something we'll get with Parks and Recs once we get there and find out exactly what we have on the site. In some areas, we have kept similar type of wells. The property owners indicated there's not a well on the property. I had kind of this, saw your facial expression. I'm going, well, where's this pipe coming from? So this is some stuff we'll ferret out as we go forward in this. And then depending on the well's condition and so forth, we'd get back with Parks and Recs and see if that's something they think would be helpful in restoration. If not, then he'll be responsible for properly closing the well.
Any further questions before we open for public input? Seeing none at this time, would anyone in the public care to address the committee on nomination 627, Bokelia Smokehouse Bay Preserve, 20 acres? Please come forward.
Again, Barbara Manzo, Eyes on 2020. I just want to emphasize how important these parcels that are contiguous to our other conservation lands are, and I'm glad that we're looking at all of these and we approve this purchase. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else in the public care to address the committee with respect to this acquisition? If so, please come forward. Seeing none, what is the pleasure of the committee? We will need a motion for approval for forward for acquisition.
What was the motion to approve?
And a second. Okay. Motion by Mr. Cruz, second by Ms. Andrus. Any further questions? Any opposition? That carries unanimously. Thank you very much. All righty. Next on our agenda is item number 7, management items, parks and recreation, some management activities. Mr. Young.
Good evening. We wanted to give an update of some of the preserves and what's going on in some of our Bob James Preserve on October 31st. There was a prescribed burn of 63 acres. It was close to one day. Everything went fine and was actually open on Wednesday. It was closed on Tuesday, the 31st, and opened back up on Wednesday, and everything went fine on Bob James. No issues on that. November the 1st, 6 Mile Cypress Slough, we had a meeting with the 2020 coordinators and park rangers and park employees. Discussed some of the preserves about a lot of the locks and locations and fence lines have been cut. So we're going to increase park rangers' presence, along with we instructed staff to also contact the sheriff's office if no one's present at that time because of the area that we have to cover. So we have our guys on top of that to make sure that we patrol and keep everything as best we can, just to update you guys on that when we hear things about that. We hired 2 new natural coordinators, and we was in the process of hiring one more. I think we may have the third one hired already. Have you hired them already, Emily? If we do have it? Okay, so we have 3, and we're in the process of training those 3 people, the 3 coordinators, to be familiar with all the properties, and we'll show them around, but the coordinators will, then make sure that they can be a part of what we're trying to accomplish here. And also there's a fire training scheduled for November the 14th at CRP. Who's conducting that training at CRP? I forget who was doing that particular training. The coordinators, they're going to be doing that too. And also we have upcoming training for the preserve volunteers also scheduled. And that's the update for the preserve at this time.
What training do you do with respect to the volunteers? What all do you
You
look
guys help us out with
for
that?
for them, and what do you acquaint them with?
We got, it's for the national coordinators training, the 3 new trainers, the 3 new coordinators that we have.
And the preserve volunteers?
Yes, yeah. And if you can touch on the volunteers also while you're there.
Yeah, Rick Bauer, Lee County Parks and Recreation. So a lot of the training that we're going to be doing is having the new coordinators shadow some of the existing coordinators. There's a lot of ways that people do this job, and we want them to kind of see the different things that they can do, and also know kind of what each coordinator's specialty is, so that they know who to reach out to in the other districts should they have a question on gopher tortoises, mitigation, hydrology, restoration, that sort of thing. The volunteers, we have some volunteers in Lee County Parks and Recreation that come out with them. Most of them are based out of 6 Mile Cypress Slough Preserve. It's a good opportunity for them to see other places in the county and kind of get out in the field as opposed to doing more of our frontline work. So a lot of them come out and do trail trimming, they'll do exotic maintenance, they'll do fence repairs, kind of whatever they're interested in based on the work days that coordinators set up.
Thank you.
Any questions of staff with respect to management activities? All right, seeing none. Item 7B, committee member items, if any. None were submitted prior that are noted on the agenda. Does anyone have anything they'd like to bring up at this time? Seeing none, we'll move to public comment. Would anyone in the public care to address the committee on items other than those that we've previously taken action on?
Barbara Manzo, representing Eyes on Conservation 2020. I'm really happy to see the purchases that were approved here today and the nominations. And I'm here to ask you to consider and look at, if you're not familiar with some of the parcels that we are looking at in our group. As you can see, you're purchasing very small parcels, and I think, Robert, you can help me out here, but probably these 2 purchases of 51 and 20 acres might bring us to 100 acres this year, which is wonderful but sad at the same time, because we are losing all of the large parcels that we were able to purchase years ago in this program. And so there's 3 parcels I'd like to have you take a look at and be aware of. The first is called Redfish Point, which is a Cape Coral property that is directly on the Caloosahatchee River. I see you shaking your head here. It's a 350-acre, a rare waterfront property, uplands and wetlands, and an active proposal to construct 800 homes, 38,000 square feet of commercial, and a 300-room hotel and 200 boat slips. Whether or not this could ever come close to passing zoning is another question, but there are active groups in Cape Coral working on this purchase. Commissioner Ruane has been advised about it, as well as some of the council people in Cape Coral, and so we wanted to make you aware that this is a critical piece of property, and we hope that the county is going to move forward. We, the Eyes on Conservation 2020, have contacted the owners, have tried to contact the owners. Happens to be in the hands of the Zemmel Trust, from whom we've purchased many acres of lands in the past. A response, and So we're hoping that as many people as possible will get behind this project and see that that rare piece of property can be purchased. The other one we are asking you to take a look at is the Eden Oaks project. Another large parcel, 309 acres. As you're aware, the zoning change was denied, and so perhaps now the owners would be more willing to look at selling this to Conservation 2020, and so we're asking that this property be looked at. Again, another very rare piece of property and very important to conservation and the environment. Another one that just recently came up is the school board property at Tuckahoe and Joel in Lehigh Acres. They were going to put a large prototype high school, middle school there on this 100-acre parcel, and it's so over budget they are not doing it. And apparently last night, I was not present at the meeting last night, but someone else was, when they were asked if the school board was asked if they thought about Conservation 2020, they indicated that the county was not interested in this parcel. So we don't know why the county wouldn't be interested. Usually transactions between the school district and Lee County are usually easier to do. So we're asking you to take a look at this parcel. It is directly, I think this one is directly attached to the Alva Scrub Preserve, the existing Alva Scrub Preserve. So again, another 100 acres, and that would be great.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Would anyone else in the audience care to address the committee under our public comment section? If so, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll close that section. Our next item.
Can I speak for a moment on these matters? Oh, if you would, yeah. I just want to address those three properties. I've had a conversation with several individuals, and we have submitted applications to a couple of folks and let them know that if the property owner of Redfish Point wish to nominate the property, they may do so, and we will bring it forward for consideration. With regard to Eden Oak, we previously attempted to negotiate a settlement on that property. That property owner was not willing to settle with us. The school board property on Tuckahoe, my understanding is the school board is going forward with the school. I had conversation with the person in charge of the land acquisitions and school sites, and he had indicated that that is going forward. And I also told him that if it wasn't going forward, bring it to us for consideration. So there's always a lot of misinformation out there, and somewhere in between is the truth, but we have tried to negotiate or have sent out solicitations to various property owners. The environment we're in now, if somebody has a large tract of land, they're looking to maximize it with developers. In the past, as you know, we've been doing this since '96, I believe, and the ability to pick up properties has gone like this. As the market goes down, our nominations increase. So, I just want to let anyone who's paying attention, we are looking, and we have tried to acquire and engage people to nominate parcels, and until they're willing to do so, it's kind of hard for us to go forward. So that's why we've been seeing a lot of these little, relatively small parcels from what we're used to, is that they tend to be a little less marketable than some of the other properties. So I just want to let y'all know we are looking at things, and Roland had brought forward I guess somewhere around 60 properties that we've looked at. Most of them are in the Crew area. They tend to be 5 and 10 acre tracts, but collectively, I started acquiring Crew property back in, I think it was in '92, and we've been acquiring them since '92 to now, and I think we've acquired and sold to South Florida Water Management District something like 4,900 acres. So, the small parcels do add up, but it just takes additional time.
Thank you for those comments. My apologies for rushing through that for you.
No apologies.
Any other comments by anyone on the board? Our next meeting is Wednesday, December 20th at 5:30. And then our proposed 2024 meeting schedule is the third Wednesday of each month. I think you, Renee, sent out the schedule previously, so kind of get those on your calendar to set that time aside. Unless there are any other items, we'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I just want to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Our one day together.